In late February 2026, kinetic escalation in the Middle East triggered an immediate paralysis across global maritime trade routes. The crisis manifested as a double choke point. Beyond the Persian Gulf, military factions instituted a naval blockade of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the critical artery connecting the Red Sea to the global economy. Targeted strikes on commercial shipping created an operational environment of unacceptable risk. Within days, war risk insurance premiums surged by up to 600%, prompting major conglomerates to declare force majeure. The logistical reality was absolute. The blockade severed access to 20% of the world's daily oil supply, while Gulf states were forced to shut in 10 million barrels per day of production as local storage reached capacity. The blockade triggered the largest supply shock in the history of the oil market, fracturing globalized supply chains. The primary secondary effect of this shock was severe global stagflation. Surging energy costs stalled economic growth while driving inflation, leaving central bank monetary policy effectively paralyzed. Geopolitical shocks provide the operational mandate for institutional adaptation, leading toward the deployment of centralized socioeconomic architectures. To understand this shift, we must map out three distinct domains of adaptation: hyperscaler compute infrastructure, sovereign civilian governance, and the reallocation of institutional capital. In a polycentric era, survival requires major entities to secure exclusive access to resources, establish strict digital and physical borders, and implement granular rationing systems. This chart tracks United States AI power demand, pushing to 106 gigawatts by 2035. Training models demands continuous, zero-downtime baseload power. With blockades causing extreme volatility, natural gas became too expensive to serve as the backbone for AI operations. Furthermore, despite its growth, the inherent intermittency of renewable energy disqualifies it from meeting the rigid 24/7 operational demands of AI inference engines. The artificial intelligence revolution structurally collided with global warfare, proving that a public fossil fuel grid is incompatible with the pursuit of technological supremacy. To solve the electricity bottleneck, technology hyperscalers adopted a bring-your-own-power strategy, bypassing public utility grids to decouple from geopolitical energy shocks. Microsoft executed an accelerated 20-year power purchase agreement, securing 835 megawatts of dedicated nuclear capacity, with a deployment target of 2028. Meta initiated a concurrent strategy, funding next-generation small modular reactors and prepaying for multi-gigawatt nuclear powerhouses on decommissioned enrichment sites. This blueprint visualizes the resulting bifurcated energy grid, a reliable, privately funded nuclear infrastructure serving technology development, severed from a stressed public grid. By absorbing the capital expenditure of nuclear development, tech monopolies engineered absolute energy sovereignty, insulating their AI dominance from the collapse of traditional energy markets. The Persian Gulf blockade generated second-order effects far beyond energy, severing critical nodes of the global agri-food system. The disruption immediately stalled 44. For sovereign states, these supply chain breakdowns and localized shortages represent a governance threat, risking immediate civic instability and mass unrest. Severe economic disruptions and energy shortages provide governments with an operational justification for introducing digital management and rationing protocols for civilian populations. To manage scarcity, governments rely on digital public infrastructure, or DPI. Heavily subsidized by philanthropic organizations, DPI provides the standardized architecture required to authenticate identities and execute targeted social protection. The 2026 crisis accelerated these rollouts, from mass adoption of mobile driver's licenses in the United States to the European Union's Digital Identity Framework mandates. As these systems mature, they exhibit function creep, where architectures designed for emergency relief evolve into mandatory gateways for accessing basic civic entitlements and employment. This flowchart visualizes the technical convergence for spatial and economic control. A biometric ID links to a central bank smart contract, governing fuel and mobility permits. In practice, this automatically enforces movement rationing when an individual exceeds their allotted parameters. Legislative frameworks, such as the Genius Act of 2025, mandate this control. Issuers of regulated digital assets are legally required to possess the technical capability to freeze or burn funds via algorithmic command. Sovereign states successfully leveraged resource scarcity to mandate digital compliance, replacing the anonymity of physical cash with a closed-loop network of behavioral rationing. The third domain of adaptation tracks how institutional capital and ultra-high net worth entities navigate a highly kinetic world order. Trade-dependent, non-aligned city-states operate with profound baseline vulnerabilities. Singapore, for instance, imports over 90, activating new berths at the Tuas port expansion, positioned the city-state to capture market share from broken trade routes. In an era of fractured globalization, physical supply chain redundancy ensures domestic survival. It is actively operationalized as a financial product to attract foreign capital. Weaponized interdependence, the use of sanctions and sweeping digital regulations, drives generational wealth toward absolute jurisdictional neutrality. Institutional entities act as trusted intermediaries in this migration, advising sovereign wealth funds and family offices on asset allocation designed to sit outside volatile legal jurisdictions. The resulting fortress portfolio strategy focuses on structural resilience. Capital systematically pivots toward physical bullion, defense infrastructure equities, and assets resisting currency debasement. This strategy dictates severe geographic reallocation, structuring portfolios to bypass regions exposed to direct military conflict or strict trade tariffs. While average citizens are subjected to granular tracking and resource rationing, elite institutional capital secures autonomy by consolidating in fortified, geopolitically isolated safe havens. The 2026 geopolitical rupture provides a macroeconomic baseline. Severe exogenous shocks provide the operational context for the structural centralization of the global order. Examining the specific institutional responses to these compounding global crises reveals the three foundational pillars of the new architectural reality. To guarantee computational supremacy, hyperscalers abandoned public utilities, engineering private nuclear sovereignty. To prevent civic collapse amidst broken supply chains, sovereign states deployed unified digital identity frameworks, centralizing the algorithmic rationing of scarce resources. To evade weaponized financial networks, legacy capital abandoned traditional global markets, consolidating inside physically and geopolitically fortified city-states. The coming decade will be defined by a relentless institutional arms race for absolute systemic control, strict cryptographic compliance, and physical autonomy in an age of inescapable scarcity.